I now invite Mr. Eric Moos, Chair of the Commission of Inquiry, to present the update. You have the floor, sir.
Distinguished President, Excellencies, you will recall that when my colleagues and I updated you last September, we focused, as we did in our report to the General Assembly in October, on events in 4 regions from late February to March 2022. The report we are presenting today covers 9 regions and events that took place during almost 1 year. Moreover, the Commission has strengthened its analysis of patterns of violations, thematically deepened its investigations on torture, included attacks on energy infrastructure, and it continues to articulate recommendations on a broad notion of accountability. The Commission notes that the conflict continues, inflicting suffering on the civilian population with more casualties, separation, displacement, and destruction of key infrastructure. This has affected millions of people, has worsened living conditions, and hampered access to water, food, health, and education. During its mandate, the Commission has traveled 8 times to Ukraine, where it visited 56 locations, and it also went to Estonia and Georgia. It has interviewed almost 600 persons. The Commission wishes to express its gratitude to the victims and witnesses who agreed to share their stories at the cost of very painful memories. It inspected sites where violation had occurred and analyzed a wide range of evidence. The Commission has assessed the information it gathered impartially and in total independence from any country or entity. It established a constructive cooperation with Ukrainian authorities through access to the territory and regular communication. The Commission also appreciates cooperation with other governments and various international organizations. It was not able to establish such a dialogue with the Russian Federation, as all its attempts remained unsuccessful, nor did it obtain access to the occupied territories. In the time allotted to this interactive dialogue, the Commission will not be able to present in detail its findings and recommendations. In addition to the present report, the Commission will publish a conference room paper. The Commission's investigations have demonstrated that Russian authorities have committed a wide range of violations of international humanitarian law and international human rights law in Ukraine. Many of these amount to war crimes. As regards Ukrainian armed forces, the Commission has documented a small number of violations, in addition to 2 cases of war crimes involving shooting, wounding, and torture of Russian prisoners of war, mentioned in September. It found instances where Ukrainian armed forces likely committed indiscriminate attack in Izium city and, on some occasions, did not take requisite precautions to avoid endangering civilians. With regard to the conduct of hostilities, the Commission has confirmed its previous findings on the Russian conduct of hostilities after investigating 25 attacks with explosive weapons in populated areas in the 9 regions. It has documented considerable civilian harm. The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights reported that 90.3% of all casualties are due to such attacks. The Commission observed firsthand the damage to buildings and infrastructure and was struck by the extent of the destructions in the cities of Kharkiv, Chernihiv, and Izium. Since 10th October 2022, Russian armed forces launched waves of attacks on energy infrastructure in Ukraine that were disproportionate and constitute war crimes. The Commission recommends further investigations to clarify whether all elements of crimes against humanity are fully met, including to what extent a policy was directed against the civilian population, and whether the accumulated impact on this population over time is equivalent to that of the enumerated acts that constitute crimes against humanity. The Commission's further investigation has confirmed the widespread pattern of summary executions in areas that Russian armed forces controlled in 17 localities in Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Kiev, and Sumy regions, with the highest number in Kiev region. Most of the executions took place during the first few months of the armed conflict and were mainly targeted to individuals for any form of activity actually or perceived to be unfavorable to the Russian armed forces. The Commission has established a pattern of widespread unlawful confinement affecting men, women, and children in areas controlled by the Russian armed forces. Some men and women were deported to the Russian Federation. Torture and inhuman treatment of detainees, mostly men, have also been widespread, systematic, and prevalent against certain categories of people, in particular those suspected of providing any form of support to the Ukrainian armed forces. Victims and witnesses have given distressing testimony. The Commission documented the existence of dedicated places of detention where torture took place, and it identified torture methods that were used consistently in several of these detention facilities. In addition to amounting to war crimes and violations of human rights, the Commission has found that such acts may amount to crimes against humanity and recommends further investigations. Regarding sexual and gender-based violence, the Commission has documented cases affecting women, men, and girls in Ukraine and in the Russian Federation. The sexual violence affected mainly women during house searches and men in detention. Rapes in the course of house-to-house searches were committed at gunpoint with extreme brutality and other acts of torture. In detention, the evidence shows that sexual violence constituted torture. There were also situations in which Russian authorities imposed forced nudity at checkpoints, filtration facilities, and in detention. The Commission has not been able to verify the different figures provided by the parties relating to forced transfer and deportation of children, but has concluded that the situation it has examined violate international humanitarian law and amount to war crimes. Russian authorities violated their obligation to facilitate in every possible way the reunion of families and unjustifiably delayed the repatriation of detainees. Moreover, legal and policy measures taken in the Russian Federation appear to create a framework for some children to remain permanently in the country. Distinguished President, Excellencies, in accordance with its mandate, the Commission has made recommendations on accountability measures. It has considered the efforts undertaken at national, regional, and international levels. Coordination of these measures is essential. The Commission recommends the adoption of a prosecutorial strategy in Ukraine to address both the limited resources and the enormous caseload. In addition to judicial measures, we strongly believe that other dimensions of accountability, including truth, reparations, and guarantees of non-recurrence, are essential. Priority should be given to victims' registry and institutional support, including mental health and psychosocial services. Thank you very much.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman.